like that. I can, yeah, it tells me the participants that are in right now. And then if you click that, it tells you how many attendees if anybody's watching on the outside. So right now we just got Dawn Clayton. She is, what was that? Yeah. So many tabs. Thank you. So many different tabs. So, yeah, so basically,
I'd like to call the June 16th, 2020 School Board of Sarasota County meeting to order. Good afternoon. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you to the school board meeting this Tuesday. We will start with the flag salute. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item is our superintendent's report. Ms. Corcoran.
Good afternoon. I'm going to try to be pretty brief. Today, as you're leaving, you may notice some signage around the facility. As our staff are returning back to the workplace, we're trying to also make it, because we figure we'll have more visitors now on site. So we're, for the time being, our buildings are all still locked with badge access to get in. So all of our employees will be able to badge in and out of any facility, but kind of a pre-season view of what our new single point of entry will look like in the facility anyway will be that all visitors will need to come through the blue building beginning on Monday, and they will check in there. They'll be raptured, they'll get a visitor badge, and then they can either be escorted from whoever wants to bring them. And each department will be surveyed. Do you want to come down and get them, or is this somebody you want to just come to your facility because you know who they are? Or they know where they're going. So that'll be, I begin commencing Monday, but you may see the signs up already because they got put up a little bit early. And then I have a couple of videos of success stories. Where did he go? Where'd Jamal go? A couple of success stories out of STC's Career Edge Fast Track program. The videos were done by Katie in the communications department, and they're just great stories from a couple of our individual students, adult students. So we'd like to have you see those.
I came to this country hungry to be big. Right now I had a job and it's very good. I've been in the program since January. I learned a lot of things. I have a nice teacher who teaches us, and I really like it. I enjoy it. I'm working with JR right now. It's Circle M air conditioning, and I have learned so many things.
The qualities I see in the students was that they were giving up 3 hours a night, 3 days a week. And I figured anyone that was dedicated to giving up that amount of time was worth training.
This is a really great opportunity. There are so many careers in the program. This is not only free, this is the time to do something for you, to have a great job, to build your future. So if you want to do something, just start doing it right now, sign to the program and start thinking in the future and build a great career.
So that was Miguel.
I came to this country hungry to be big.
We'll see it again. And then we have another one for Walter, but what's nice about this program is through the Upward Family Foundation, their tuition is paid for, so they can work during the day and come and receive this training in the evening. So we'll see Walter's story next.
This is my second year in this program. The first time I was in this program, I seen it in the newspaper. It was something that I was very interested in. Before this, I had an opportunity to do HVAC, but I got into some trouble that kind of put me behind. When I seen this second opportunity, I took it. I like it a lot. I learned a lot. I'm blessed and happy that I'm able to have this second chance because it's something I love doing. I got prepared a lot taking the classes. It helped me learn the basics of it when it comes to how this works and how that works. Being in the field, I actually see how it works and what it works and when it goes bad. I learned how to check the maintenance of an air conditioner. I learned how to service an air conditioner.
One of the problems that we have in the HVAC industry is finding experienced help. So the kids that are coming out of this program have the experience to help us.
I learned a lot, and it's only been a month and a half going on with this guy. He's a great teacher. I learned a lot from him. If you have a dream, look up EdTT to see if they have something that you like or require for you to chase your dream. And if you're able to get approved for it, you go for it, because that's what I'm doing. I'm not going to stop.
Can't ask for a better ad than that, can you?
This is my second year in this program.
Yeah, I know, right? And so I wanted to thank Ron for sharing that. I thought that was great. Laura shared with us that at last week's principal meeting, they had actually two special guests who joined them. Mr. Cedric Hamid, who's actually a spoken word genius. So they kind of asked for words and phrases from everyone in the group, and he compiled this very eloquent and amazing poem and read it right back, like immediately. It's a true gift for somebody to be able to do that. And then the other guest who actually Zoom bombed the meeting, so that was kind of fun, was Dr. Shiraki Holly, the author of Culturally and Linguistically Teaching and Learning. And so he was able to energize the entire group and give them insight into the work that they will be engaging with all of our teachers and administrators in the coming year to continue our efforts to closing the achievement gap. So I thought that was a great way to have a principals meeting. And then the last thing I wanted to just bring to your attention was, as you know, we're kind of in the midst, we're starting the second week of our Summer Boost program. And Barbara Ranigan's been kind of serving as our coordinator, so she gave a bit of an update that Laura shared with me. And so, of course, she starts with our Boost teachers, and staff are the absolute best, and that schools have embraced Summer Boost and are working diligently to connect with their students. Huge thank you to the district curriculum that developed routines, plans, and resources for our teachers. Some of our middle and high school students were receiving incompletes, and we're hearing that a number of them have already completed and finished. But they're well on their way to working to the point where some of our teachers have actually reduced their contract time from 5 hours a day to 3 hours a day for some of their students. So that was good. We had a family engagement event last week where over 100 of our students participated in the Van Wezel behind-the-scenes virtual tour and interactive activity. So that was
at a school board meeting, okay?
pretty
That's
cool.
okay. Can I call you back on when I can? I crush you in the car at about 4 o'clock. Is that okay?
Oh, hey, Dawn, you might want to mute. I think it was Dawn Clayton. I think she's called in case there's questions on another item. But for the majority of our students participating in Summer Boost, they're elementary. We have between 14 and 1,500 students. So I just wanted to share some quotes from some of our schools. Sorry, I got something caught in my throat. So Englewood, from a teacher, I have a student who generally does not participate in school. The other day, he was on Zoom with his little brother next to him. I used it as an opportunity for him. He enjoys reading to little ones, and he participated because he read aloud to his brother and discussed the story and questions with his brother. So he became a new teacher. So that was quite cute. Another student has been using her Zoom time to read with her big brother. She's been very engaged and chipper. She was a student who had a hard time joining my Zoom lessons during the regular school year, but now that her brother is with her, she's been having a lot more fun and is a lot more active. Lamarck, as a staunch advocate for history education, I've been trying to incorporate historical fiction as well as informative historical text into my students' learning. With my second graders, I read the book, Why Are There 13 Stripes on the American Flag by Martha E.H. Rustad with them. While reading, we learned about what the flag stands for, as well as decoding the words that were new to them in the Pledge of Allegiance. My students were then challenged to create their own flag that represents them. One student told me, I never knew reading about social studies could be fun. And another asked, can we read more books about America? I love this group of kids, said the teacher. At Glen Allen, they are sharing amazing opportunities. They have a resident counselor from Florida Center who's giving their parents these great opportunities. Each week, she sends out a new email with a new focus and information, and she has an open Zoom each week for parents to join and receive support from her and from others, which is a great thing to help. You know, everybody needs a little help. Alta Vista students and interns from Ringling College of Art and Design are providing weekly art lessons for the students participating in Alta Vista's Summer Boost program. On June 11th, students were invited to participate in Night at the Museum, a lesson focused on creating portraits in the style of Cubism. That's pretty advanced. Made famous by Pablo Picasso in Nature and Art, where students learn to see basic geometric shapes in trees to help them practice observational art. The lessons provided lots of laughs, and each participating student won a Ringling Art Kit for attending. And then finally, Wilkinson Elementary Summer Boost students followed their interest in pursuit of reading to learn and use technology to understand more about that topic. First, they read a book on epic.com called From Plastic to Soccer Ball to unpack the STEM that goes into creating a regulation soccer ball. They then viewed a How It Works video to see the process of making a soccer ball in action. Comparing and contrasting processes was an additional exercise in critical thinking, as much of the process in the video was automated, while the book features making a ball by hand. Another Wilkinson student pursued a love of ants by reading all of a book called Nature's Superheroes, Ants. He looked at technical vocabulary and nonfiction text features such as diagrams and bolded words to expand his knowledge to his favorite topic. Conversations about these books were rich, and students will extend their knowledge with further research, writing, and STEAM activities. So lots of good things happening with our students over the summer. And that concludes the superintendent's report.
The next thing we have is hearing of citizens. We received several emails, a lot of them about item 54 we'll address. There were a few regarding the school opening, too. Do you want to just briefly go over what we did at the workshop on school opening, Mitzi?
So during the workshop, we had a discussion on the draft guidelines that we've prepared. They're available on our website to anybody who wants to view them, along with the governor's report from his press conference last week. And we kind of asked the board for some guardrails or guidelines on what we're going to do. We have a task force that will begin their work on Thursday with a planned parent survey to go out on June 26th, and for us to compile that and get back with the board on July 14th to discuss our next steps after that.
And so basically, we're going to survey the parents and then try to accommodate all parents and students who want to come back to school, and also accommodate those students who will be doing distance learning.
To the best of our ability.
And so we really encourage those parents to fill out those surveys and let us know so that we can plan accordingly.
By school, yes, the surveys will be by school, because that's the only way we
Yeah,
can
by school.
plan for staffing.
And we are, under the new guidelines, open. We do have a citizen in our audience, but I don't have any cards. When you said that visitors have to go through the blue building, when they're coming to either watch or participate in the board meeting, do they have to go through the board meeting, the blue building, or can they just come straight through here?
Jody, they'll come this way?
Yeah, we leave this open for board meetings, all other business.
All right, so during board meetings only, what we call the brown building, the building that faces 41 will be open, and you can come in, but there's limited seating. It's spaced apart, and hopefully we won't have anything too controversial that'll bring in the troops. But at this time, we have none. Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda?
Yes, actually, we have a few. Item number 8, the instructional classified personnel report has an addendum that was added after the agenda was published. Item number 26, the Big Brothers and Big Sisters mentoring contract, we're going to be pulling that. As we discussed as part of our reopening plans, we're going to try to limit the number of visitors on our campus, so we'll bring that back when we're ready to start having more of those types of visitors on our campuses. And item 50 has been pulled. That was the item to approve for advertisement, the board policies, and that's going to then be now on your 23rd meeting.
Thank you. Can I have a motion?
I move for approval of the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
And I guess we'll all vote. Oh, and I just want to, I'm Shirley Brown. I'm the vice chair. I'm sitting in for Caroline Zucker, who is recovering from minor surgery at home, and she is with us on Zoom.
I have a quick
On
comment.
here, sorry. To see what the vote's
Madam
on.
Chair,
I'm sorry, what?
it's quick before we vote.
Before we vote, you have a comment? Okay, go ahead.
Thank
Go
you.
ahead, Bridget.
So, and I didn't know that the
Oh, it says art. Oh, never mind.
item number, that's the 26 is just as far as the one we pulled. It's not really. You mentioned, I know that as we talk about volunteers, and I understand why we're trying to limit additional people into our buildings as we figure out what this looks like. And as that comes back, I don't know if this contractually is an option, but is there a way that we can, as you guys move forward with the reopening plan, that we can have a creative, I'd hate to lose mentors, particularly in this time, but maybe it's not in person. So I don't know if that's something that can be discussed contractually or something, because it depends on the entity if they're willing to do that.
Do virtual, like Zoom
Right,
mentoring.
just so that they have something, because I feel that though I just wanted to put it out there because I didn't know we had to pull that, and it makes me worried just in general as we have to continue to peel back some of those. So that's all.
Okay.
Do you have your microphone on?
Yeah. Yeah, bring it closer.
Okay.
What you got about?
I said, please vote.
Pretty please.
And I can't, it's not on my screen, but it looks like it's 5 yeses.
5-0. Yes.
Okay, so next on the agenda.
Move approval that the board, move that the board approve the advertisement of changes to the Code of Student Conduct with the final document to be presented at the August 4th school board meeting.
Second.
Bridget?
Can everyone hear me? Okay, so I had actually asked Mrs. Clayton or just asked as far as the track changes, and she provided that, and thank you very much. I just wanted to be able to see what changes. I think it's predominantly around Cessor, is my understanding. The only question I have is particularly hinging off of the conversation we just had, and it costs money to advertise. Now, I don't know by way of compliance if we have to have this done at a certain time. Art, do you know? I don't know why we would duplicate if we're likely going to change it.
I think it's always better to have as much of it at least done before
Okay.
the start of school as possible.
Okay, fair enough. Just wanted to double check. Thank you.
So everyone vote? And that passes 5-0. Item 50?
Oh, that was
50 was pulled.
That's right, that was the policies that we didn't do. Item 51.
Move that the board approve the new job description for Business Manager Operations Division as presented.
Second.
Discussion? Then vote.
Good.
The vote passes 5-0. Item 52.
Move for approval of a job description, Professional Development Coordinator, Office of Research, State Reporting and Evaluations, as presented.
Second.
I think for clarification, I'd like to point out, because I know I had a question, like, why are we coming up with all of these new positions? And they are, so it's new positions as we're combining some positions to streamline our process for next year. So we're not adding new positions, we're actually eliminating a position or two or three. So everyone vote. They have, is there somebody that's missing there? No, is that me? All right, so everyone has voted. Item 53.
Move that the new job description for Assistant Director, Food and Nutrition Services be approved by the board as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comment? Please vote. Item, that vote passes 5-0. Item 54.
I would move that the school board approve the exchange agreement with Minnesota Beach Ranchlands LLP to exchange and purchase sites for future schools in Northport as presented.
Second.
Because we've had so much questions on this, could Mr. Dumas explain why we're doing this and why we're doing this now?
Sure, absolutely. Can you hear me okay?
I don't know.
Is he on?
Can you hear me?
Caroline, can you hear Jody?
It says the mic's on.
No.
Okay. Do you want to come sit here?
You can sit this one here too.
Big C.
Take a seat with your back to the board.
All right, so thank
on?
you. So this exchange agreement is before you. All right, so like third, fourth, fifth time's a charm. So this exchange agreement is before you today. As you're aware, I think you're aware, we've been in a process of negotiating with West Villages for the purchase of 2 properties and the sale of 1 for the last several months. Mr. Hardy's been involved with us in terms of that process. We started several months ago taking a look at really the capacity at Venice High School was really the driving issue of why we started looking for a new site in this area to accommodate the growth at that particular school. If you remember back a year and a half, 2 years ago, in our capital plan, we had, or could have had, we planned for it in the last construction phase at Venice High School, the ability to put an additional classroom wing on that campus. As part of the board's request, we went out to the community and talked a little bit about what the Venice High would look like in the future. Did we want to add more students to that campus? And I think overwhelmingly the community decided no, they wanted to keep Venice High at its current size and look at doing something else to accommodate the growth kind of in South Venice into the upper section, the north part of Northport. And so as part of that, we started looking for an additional high school site. That led us into West Villages, just because of the amount of building that's going on there and the adjacencies to the other 2 districts, being Northport High and Venice High, was a nice spot for us. So as we started to have those conversations with that developer, it transitioned into, wouldn't it be nice to have a large adjacency, an adjacent site for a K-8, so we could realize some efficiencies when we build, like common bus loops loops and things of that nature. So that led us into a conversation about what do we do with our current K-8 site, which is right across from the ball field there. And so we started, as we had those conversations, developed into, well, why don't we look at exchanging our site for the new site, for the new K-8 site, and then purchasing the high school site, and what would that all look like? And so that's kind of led us to where we are today, which is basically we've gone out and we've gotten, per our process, we've gotten 4 appraisals on the properties to determine fair market value. And we are now presenting an agreement to you today that would say, basically, we're going to sell our property, West Villages, and we're going to purchase 2 new properties so that we have those adjacent campuses in South County. So that's kind of how we got to where we are today.
So if I'm understanding you, you're saying that the existing site we have for kindergarten is not kindergarten, K-8 is adjacent to the ball field or across the street from the ball field, and there might be traffic problems. And we're moving to this other site because it's a site for a high school, and we can put the 2 of them, the high school and K-8.
Yeah, so
first
correct.
Savings and
correct. So the current K-8 site that we have would work fine if we wanted to build there. That would still work for us. However, as I said, as we got involved in the conversations, we quickly came to the conclusion of, hey, wouldn't it be nice to have the 2 schools co-located together, because then we can share some services. We can save some money potentially in construction costs with common bus loops and things of that nature. And so would the property we currently have that we got slated for a K, would that be of value to West Villages where it might make sense to do that exchange? And so that's how we started to get in that conversation. So certainly the property we currently own, if you wanted to keep it, would work fine for a K-8 model, but it also works as part of this exchange agreement too. And that's the direction we've kind of gone in.
Mr. Robinson.
Yeah, my issue is that I was fine with all this until June, because I thought Northport was moving along to rezone the place we're swapping to government use so you can put a school in, but they since postponed the rezoning to July 2nd. I'm hoping that they will rezone it. I just don't feel comfortable swapping out a piece of property that's rezoned for schools for a piece of property that Northport hasn't rezoned yet for schools. I fully expect them to do that. I just wish we'd push it off until that time period.
Well, we have, assuming the contract is approved, we have an inspection period of 180 days. So that would start today or tomorrow. So, and that allows us to get out of the contract, or the other side, to get out of the contract for any reason.
But to me, the 180 days really is the amount of time between now and the rezoning date takes off of that 180 days. I mean, so for example, if they don't rezone the property for 179 days, we really only have 1 day to do due diligence.
Well, we will start our due diligence process right away. So as soon as we enter the agreement, we will start with land survey, boundary survey, all of that stuff.
But if the property isn't zoned where you can put a school up, then all that's for naught.
Jody, can I speak? This is Mickey.
So this is Mickey Ryan. Mickey?
Somebody is speaking from the Netherlands. Who is that?
It's Mickey Ryan.
Okay, hi, Mickey.
Hi, how are you? I'd just like to add something to Mr. Robinson's comment. I spoke with the planning manager in the city of Northport, and the property we're looking to purchase is zoned for a village, which schools are allowed. She told me that we can change it to government use zoning down the road, that we're perfectly okay with village zoning.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand. Did she say it's already zoning allowable for school? What did she say?
I heard differently from city council members from City Northport.
Well, I talked with her just to verify it, and that's what she told me. So
because it's my understanding they actually have it on their agenda for July 2nd. So why would they have it on their agenda for July 2nd if they don't need to have it on their agenda? It was originally June 9th, and they pulled it and delayed it to July 2nd. So obviously, there is something that needs to be approved by the city of Northport.
Well, I don't know. All I can say is I know that when that whole village pattern plan book was approved, there was school sites shown in there, and it was allowed in the village zoning, which was years ago, back when I first came to work here. So I can follow up on that during our, I can do it, right away.
Okay, Jane? Ms. Goodwin?
I just wanted to say that, there is a great savings in scaling up and having both the elementary, middle, and high school in the same area. There's a lot of savings there, and lack of duplication of efforts such as busing. So I'm very excited about that. I know that there are people in the West Villages who are not happy with this because we received a lot of emails from it. But I'm hoping in this 180 days that we'll be able to arrest their fears and get things passed if something's required in Northport so that we can get this back on track. But I think it's an important thing. I think it's a very good thing to do because we've been looking at this property for a long time, and we know how overcrowded Venice High School is, and it's only going to get worse.
Mrs. Ziegler?
Thank you. I know, and briefly spoken with Mr. Hardy and Superintendent Corcoran, and I just want to make sure I understand, because I'm very, and to be fair, just I know the change of location has certainly been something we've talked about. You've kept us abreast of all of that, so that's not, I know that that's something we have been on, it's been an ongoing discussion, but I want, again, I think it was part of the reason I sent an email over, just to make sure I clarify, I understood what's transpiring in the delay in Northport, the city of Northport. Is that related to is it a zoning issue, or is it completely different? Because that is different information than I had understood. So, and then, if that just want to make sure that's clarified.
So I would say that I am not aware of it being an issue for us with zoning. So one of the things that we always do when we move to purchase a property is we talk to the city, talk to the county, wherever the jurisdiction that property is, to make sure we do not run into these problems as we move towards purchase. So I know Mickey has done that footwork and that legwork. I will have to follow up on what the issue is. Okay. I do not know, but we can do that quickly.
And I just for clarification, because I support this, but that makes me hesitant. I want to make sure, because at the end of the day, I agree. I understand we have the 180 days. I get that, but ideally, and I know zoning can be fickle sometimes, for sure, and I have no doubt. But if it's not, and what is our traditional process? Do we wait? Do we purchase it and hope it gets zoned that way, or not? So I just want to make sure we're going about this the right way. And if there is a delay until July 2nd, I'm not sure when that meeting is. If it is related, is it something we can, or even on the 23rd? I hate to keep kicking things back, but I want to make sure we are fully understanding of what, if there is at all an issue. That's all.
So I certainly don't want to speak for Ms. Ryan, but we'll absolutely follow up on this, if not this afternoon, tomorrow. And if it looks like there's an issue, then we will deal with it right away. But I am very confident that our relationship with the city of Northport at the planning level, there's a mutual respect there. And so if there was a problem where there would be a zoning issue, I am sure they would have let us know before now. But again, I do not know what the issue is. I don't even know what was on the commission agenda for voting on, so we will have to run that down and find out. But again, that 180-day period, we would certainly not hesitate to exercise our option out of that contract if it looked like we could not rezone that property to be able to build the high school and the K-8 next to it.
And that's the same for our sale as well, not just purchase?
That's correct.
Mr. Robinson?
It's all one.
Yeah, I agree with Ms. Goodwin that we need to have this, but I just want to, so since you guys are going to look at it, it's on the June 9th agenda for the city of Northport. It's item number 6B, ordinance number 2020-16. I'm looking at the agenda item for the city of Northport. And it was originally on June 9th, but they pulled it to July 2nd. But it's item 6B, ordinance number 2020-16, and it basically talks about West Villages, Park Acreage potential school sites is what it says. So that's all I'm saying. I agree that we need to have this. I agree it's overcrowded. I agree with my issue is not to be a reflection upon the fact that we need to have a school in that area. I just want to make sure that the process is done, and I'm just concerned about how that affects the due diligence period of when that actually occurs. Now, it does say second reading, which implies that it's a good chance that it's going to happen. I mean, I'm not saying that it's not, but things happen. So.
Well, I will make that phone call this afternoon.
Okay.
And is there a reason why we have to do this before their meeting, or could we do this at the next meeting, or does it matter?
Shirley?
I
Shirley?
see you, Caroline.
Okay. Since we have an opportunity that I don't see us holding this because we have 180 days if there's something wrong. I believe that it's a group of people that thought they were going to have a small school in their area who are now finding that we will be building a K-12. And I think that's where the dissension is. I don't think it has anything to do with the site or the fact that we're building a school there. So I would recommend that we move forward and let staff do due diligence.
How far is this site from the old site?
I would hate to say a distance. It's not far at all. It's if you're familiar with Minnesota Beach Road, Minnesota Beach Road will connect to River Road, and we are right at basically at that point of that connection.
Thank you.
Of Minnesota Beach Road would connect to River Road?
Yes, and the extension's not been built yet. That's part of one of the reasons the agreement was held up is because we needed to work into the contract that a guarantee that we would have that road built, and so that's been done. So that's a piece of this agreement moving forward.
Sounds like a good location.
So we couldn't build the school until that road got built?
Yeah, that's correct. We'd want to make sure that road's in and the infrastructure is in before we started building, and so that's part of the contract that agreement is tied to when we want to build.
Well, and that's part of what's going to have to be dealt with in the 180-day period. There's going to have to be further documentation because we will not go, or at least it wouldn't be my recommendation, certainly, would be to not move forward unless we can become satisfied that that road is either built or that there's a pot of money available so that the road will be built before we have to go in. But my understanding is we've got this is not the first school on the docket. So we have a little bit of time. It's not like if we buy this property today, we're going to start turning dirt tomorrow.
So I've been here a long time, and I've been hearing about River Road being built for years.
And honestly, I've made that point in some conversations we've had with the developer, and that's why we need more than a verbal assurance that that's going to be done. We need it either to be done or a segregated pot of money so that the road can be built at our direction. And that's the documentation. We've had verbal assurances that that's all going to be worked out. We need to have that in writing during the due diligence period. So we're working on that. But it certainly would not be my recommendation for you to proceed to a closing unless we're all comfortable that there is going to be a road by the time we need it.
But Ms. Brown's correct. They've been talking about widening River Road for quite some 20 years.
Agreed, which is why we're not taking it on face value.
Well, and then I'm thinking with the COVID-19 and this gas sales tax flying up, but you will do due diligence and make sure that those dollars are there.
Minnesota Beach Road from River, that's a pretty long road.
Yeah, so I think the price estimated to build it was something like $18 million to build that segment.
South of 41. Okay, I was thinking.
Yeah, it's on the other side.
It's on the other side, by the Charlotte side, by Charlotte. Okay, I was thinking River Road on the other side. I was like, man, that's a pretty far distance.
I thought it was 18. Yeah.
Any further discussion?
But just for clarity, I mean, adding in the guarantees on infrastructure is a good thing. So I think, we want to do that. So I just want to, for clarification, because I think this has been a project we've talked about, and it's been changed for some time. So it's not that this is all a big surprise in one way. I just wanted to confirm from and that's why I was concerned when we had received the emails and how it pertained to the city of Northport. And at first, my understanding it was not. It's a different issue, and I understand the part of it. But my question is, so we have the 180 days, or I understand the assurances and why we want that put in there. In the event the city of Northport does not move forward with the zoning approval, we can go backwards. I mean, we can cancel our transaction.
Within the 180-day period, we can cancel for whatever reason we wish. Now, from what I've heard, and I don't know, so I'm not saying this, but from what I heard from Ms. Ryan, is she's saying, based on her information, that under the current land use, and Mickey, correct me if I'm wrong, but under the current zoning designation, we could build a school now. However, I understand from what Mr. Robinson just said, there is a rezoning to governmental use. So we're going to have to, that's what, we'll check and make sure that we feel comfortable with all of that.
And Jody, I just want to make sure.
Mr. Robinson?
Is it the building of the Minnesota Beach Road, or is it the building of Minnesota Beach Road and the widening of River Road?
No, it's just the building. It's the connection. It's the segment of Minnesota Beach Road from where it currently ends to the connection on River Road.
And so Minnesota, because River Road thins out there, once you get over that hump, because it thins out again. So we would build, even though it's a, I never can figure out, is that a 1 lane or 2 lane? Is it 1 lane when you're going, or 2 lane? Whatever it is, there's only 1 lane going. Is that called 2 lanes?
It goes by a development.
Right.
I have friends that live in there.
Right, and what we're talking about is not widening River Road, it's the construction
but
of
I
a
would think
segment
that
of
not
Minnesota Beach Road.
having a school on a road that small, a K through 8 in high school, could be problem. That's going to be a bottleneck. Maybe that's what their issue is.
I hate to say this. I know there's been conversation about the widening of River Road recently, but whatever that timeline looks like, I'm not aware of.
Yeah. That conversation is the section north of US 41.
Right.
Will this come back to us before we go forward after the 180 days?
Yes, assuming we're moving forward, we're only going to be moving forward if we get the further documentation, which I'm confident that we will, but the further documentation that will clarify rights and responsibilities for the construction of that segment of Minnesota Beach Road.
So you still have to come back to us.
Correct.
One more time.
At least.
And even if we're going forward, or if we don't go forward, we still have this property that has been set aside for an elementary school, but it's still sitting across the street from the ball field, which is causing its own issues.
Right. Until we close on this deal, this deal is a land swap and purchase, so it's a purchase and sale going both ways. We're spending money because we're getting more land, but it's a trade of basically 2 school sites for 1 school site. If we don't make this deal, then we are in status quo right now, the situation we have with the K-8 site near the ball field. And we wouldn't have
and still needing a high school site.
Right, and we wouldn't have a high school site. And I know that staff has, I've not been part of it, but I know staff has looked, because another option was to keep what we have, which is fine for a K-8 site, may have some issues given its location, but we could build there. But then we'd have to find another high school site somewhere else. And I think the conclusion on staff's behalf, for a number of reasons, was it was better to move forward with this larger kind of combined K-8 next door to the high school site. But if we don't do this, we still have the K-8 site. If we aren't going to move, if we approve this today, but then we're going to back out within the 180 days, that would have to come back before the board. If we're going to move forward with the closing, we would also have to come back before the board, because there's going to absolutely be additional documents that the board will need to approve.
And if it's any indication, as the last couple we've done, we'll probably be back in front of you several times.
Okay, ready to vote?
I mean, I know you guys have done a lot of work on this, and there's this element that I understand where we can move forward. I will prove it and understand that there are some elements of, I mean, we have some flexibility. The only question, I guess, is why, if we still have this, most of us have some level of question, if we waited to confirm Mickey answering one of these questions, or is there, what's the downside? That's the one part that I'm somewhat.
So, Art and I are looking at one another. I don't think there is a downside. So if the board would prefer we wait, we ask the question in terms of what's going on with the commission.
I mean, because there are
we
questions.
We could bring it back at another board meeting. That would be fine.
The only potential downside, and I don't see it happening, is if we don't have a contract, the other side could decide
to sell it to someone else.
We're not going to move forward with you, school board. I don't think that's likely, but I can't promise you that. But I don't think there's urgency like we're ready to start building the school tomorrow.
I guess that's my overall concern, because there's seemingly
our next board meeting is July 14th, I believe.
June 23rd, really. I mean,
no,
we can't do it on the 23rd.
Oh, July, yeah, sorry. Oh, that's right, sorry.
If we're waiting for their vote, so July 14th?
That would be absolutely fine if you would prefer.
So do I have a motion, or I guess we've got the motion before us to vote.
I make a motion we table item number 54.
Until date certain?
Until date certain.
What's the date?
July 14th?
16th. When do we meet?
July 14th.
July 14th.
Yes.
I make a motion we table this motion to July 14th.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It's tabled
Nay.
until, I'm sorry?
Nay,
Okay.
there's no reason to delay this.
Okay. So the motion to move this to the July 14th agenda has passed 4-1. Item 55.
I move for approval of the Citizens Advisory Committee Superintendent recommendations that were presented earlier this morning at our workshop.
Second.
Mr. Robinson.
I want to reiterate this morning, for the instance of time, our entire board was very thankful for the Citizens Advisory Committee, and I just want to reiterate what was already said at the workshop, that we really appreciate all the hard work that they did, whittling down the list to the 5 that we have in front of us. So thank you very much to all the Citizens Advisory Committee, and hopefully after this they'll be able to start talking to each other. Unless they don't want to talk to each other.
No, I would echo that. I'm very excited. I know, again, I was concerned about timeline, but and I not only am I excited about the candidates the applicants that we have shortlisted now, but just the whole process of it being accessible virtually, I think, is a real benefit to us. So I thank everyone for their time and their due diligence and taking this seriously. So looking forward to next steps.
Caroline?
Oh, the same thing as I said this morning. I just like to thank everyone for their, for doing due diligence and for serving on this committee for us.
Jane, did you have a comment? No. I too want to thank the members who served on that. What the next step will be is a questionnaire is going out with 5 questions to the 5 semifinalists, and they will answer some of them video, some of them in writing. We will get those back, believe it, on the 21st. We'll have another meeting on June 23rd where we will review those. Yes.
I think there's some error on my voting. I meant to vote for it, but it never came up in my screen to vote for or against this. So, but
Bridget voted against. I mean, Caroline voted against. I'm sorry.
No. Oh, this is the last one. Okay, because it was okay. Never mind.
Oh, okay, never mind.
But what's coming up on our screen right now is the Minnesota thing.
It hasn't exited out,
So the board will be coming back next Tuesday at 3 o'clock. And if we're going to be taking action on that, and I think there's something else we might be looking at, we're going to be looking at the policies on harassment and bullying.
The plan is to look at the policies revised as discussed at the workshop today.
Right. So, all of those in favor of accepting the recommendations of the Citizens Advisory Committee, we're going to just say aye because we've got the wrong vote on the screen.
Aye.
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 That's 5-0. Any comments from the board for the good of the nation? Or not? Eric?
I have 2 items that I want to talk about. The first item involves our superintendent. When we initially granted or approved her contract, I think the intention of the board was to mirror her contract to the previous superintendents, but I guess there was some oversight that it didn't mirror the superintendent for vacation time, but thankfully Mitzi hasn't gotten any vacation time during all this COVID and superintendent search, and I believe it was the intention of the board to mirror that, and so I would like to make a motion that we correct the error in the original, in her original contract that we approved, so it mirrors what the previous superintendent's contract was.
Second. But I want to clarify something.
I don't know that we can be voting on something that hasn't been on the agenda, but, and I don't know what this is. This is all something new to me. I mean, I would.
Well, can I?
I have no problem about bringing it up. I have another item too.
Yeah, you know, whatever that issue is.
Then I'll be happy to withdraw my motion if.
Oh yeah, second. I just I want to speak to it. So
Okay.
I mean, if we can.
I'm sorry.
Okay, Mr. Hardy, and then.
Well, all I was going to say was the motion can be withdrawn with the agreement of the person who made the motion and the person who made the second. Doesn't mean you can't discuss the issue generally anyway. It's member comments.
Ms. Ziegler?
So I think, as I understand it, it's especially in contracts, superintendent contracts, and this wanting to make sure we clarify what specifically it is. But an initial, when our interim superintendent, although I say superintendent because Lord knows, but when we drafted her contract, I thought it was supposed to be exactly similar to, I shouldn't say exactly because there was one prior to that. So the one that mirrored the initial contract from our last superintendent.
I think the issue that's different is that in previous superintendent contracts and the one you've got that we're going to talk about next week for the next superintendent permits the superintendent to be paid, basically to cash in, up to 10 vacation days a year. That wasn't in the contract we did for Mrs. Corcoran. So I believe that's what we're talking about as being different.
Given the fact that she's been having to work 7 days a week.
Right, she certainly hasn't been taking the vacation.
Right, forget about taking a vacation, she doesn't even get to take a day off.
Or go to sleep. I can attest when I get emails.
And so that was the issue. But I'll be happy. I'll be not happily, but I understand Ms. Goodwin's issue, and I'm willing to withdraw it, my motion, as long as it's on the next regularly scheduled board meeting.
And I can prepare an amendment that'll be fairly straightforward.
And I have another item. My other item, I'm going to be trying to be very, very careful to only talk about things that it has to do with DJ, and I'm gonna try and do mental gymnastics to make sure that I only talk about things that are in the public arena and not talk about anything that was in private or any executive sessions. But I have seen in the public by an employee of the school board that that I'm trying to make sure I word this correctly, is that that the school district knew about the DJ issue as far back as 6 or 7 years ago. I hope that is not the case, but I have the feeling that if it is a case that undermines our appeal, and if it's not the case, it undermines the credibility of our district, and so, which I personally feel undermines our appeal, and so for that reason, I'm going to make a motion that we drop the appeal for the DJ case.
Second, but request is in.
Again, this is something that was not on our agenda, and I will, and was not discussed in executive session. I will ask Mr. Hardy to comment.
I think a board member can make a motion. I think you have to ask, obviously the board can discuss it. I think you have to ask before you vote whether any member of the public, not a large group today, any member of the public has anything they want to say about it, and assuming the answer to that is no, or yes, for that matter, then the board can discuss it, and you can vote on it. I mean, board members can make motions. So I believe the first step would be to ask if there is anyone who wants to make, any member of the public who would like to discuss this.
Is there any member of the public who would like to speak to this?
I would like to have a clarification, please. Why can we vote on this but not vote on the previous one? What is the difference?
You could have. You could have voted on the previous one.
No, you said it hasn't come before the board, and it needs to come before the board as an item, and Eric withdrew it to bring it before the board at the next meeting. So
okay, if I can speak to that, I can speak to that.
I don't believe I gave that advice.
Right. That was something I acquiesced on my own. I had asked for the DJ case to be put on executive session so that the situation that is occurred, but for a variety of reasons that I just don't need to go into, that did not occur. So I did try to bring it up for the executive session. That I was not able to do that, and so now the only recourse I feel, is to make the motion here.
Ms. Goodwin?
Well, I just find this all really interesting, Mr. Robinson, because I had wanted to do a resolution and a proclamation, one on the fact that it was Pride Month and the 4th anniversary of the terrible debacle at the nightclub in Orlando, and the other was to make a public statement about how we felt about George Floyd. And I was told, no, I couldn't do that because I was not on the agenda. I had not referenced this 8 days before. So I find that to be rather disingenuous. Second of all, this is something that I'm only hearing from you, and it's hearsay to me. I don't know that this is true. Where did you get this information? From talking to the people who are working for the parents? From talking to or watching people on Facebook? I have no idea where this is coming from. This is very serious for our school district. And I think this is not the way to do this, Mr. Robinson. So I will not be supporting it. I would not vote for this in this fashion. I think this should have been done in an executive session, yes. I don't know anything about your asking it to be put on an executive session, but to me, this is not the right way to do this. And again, we're making decisions that, I asked for this last week and was told, no, I couldn't do a proclamation or a resolution because I wasn't 8 days out. So where do we come down on this kind of behavior? I really have a problem with this. Because it seems to me that when I make a question, a decision, or an ask for something, that it's told, oh, no, you can't do it, Jane, because you're outside the eight days on just a resolution that I wanted us to sign. Just all of us sign. People do this in other counties all the time. But I was told, no, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. And then we have something like this brought up?
The policy talks about adding something to the agenda has to be done 8 days in advance. But I don't think there's anything that prohibits any board member from making a motion. And certainly you can make a motion. I would suggest
on something that carries the weight that this carries?
I'm not advocating for this. In fact, I would suggest to you that would be not my advice to do, based on the advice that has been given before. I will say that there was a request that I was familiar with to have an or a litigation meeting about this, and the issue was one of time. As you know, it's been a very busy day, and it's my understanding that the superintendent has told me to schedule a meeting in conjunction on July 14th with your workshop and regular meeting on this case again. It was just a question of timing today.
There was a request to add this topic of discussion during an executive session. So I checked with Mr. Hardy, who then checked with Mr. McCrae on how much time we thought the one that was already scheduled would take. Would we be able to fit one in between? And Mr. McCrae said he was going to need at least 30 minutes. So I figured there was not going to be enough time before a 3 o'clock hard start for the start of the school board meeting for us to be able to also then add the DJ discussion. So we said we would put that on as an executive session at your meeting at your next regularly scheduled meeting, which was July 14th. So that's kind of where we were at with that.
Ms. Ziegler. Are you on the speaker?
I swear I pressed it. I don't know what is this. I understand. I want to be very careful because this makes me very nervous about a public. I mean, this is an ongoing case or appeal or what have you. And but I share concerns. So I want to be very. I don't know how to even share what my concerns are, even about publicly discussing it. I suppose that's the part where I'm very concerned. And to that, I don't want to be a hypocrite and continue to discuss it in a public forum, whereas perhaps we are, again, I keep bringing up June 23rd, all right? Is that something where we could then therefore have a executive session? I echo what, just the concern in how serious this is. I obviously, again, with the limited ability to talk about it, didn't support the appeal from the get-go, but I also understand Mrs. Goodwin's frustration because I have been in similar situations, and I think to that point, even some of the topics, particularly one of, I think it was a proclamation, but I think that's the larger conversation about that. I think there's a real opportunity for us to have a discussion and bring something forward as a school board. But I'm trying to hopefully turn us in a direction that perhaps will, ease the frustration. I don't want to slide over what Mr. Robinson had indicated, and I, again, don't want to be a hypocrite. I don't want to talk. We are very limited to what we can talk about when we have ongoing litigation, but I am very concerned, and I hope that every person on this board understands the serious nature of which and would act in a very appropriate and professional manner, particularly on social media, when you consider the gravity of something like this. So I'm seconding it, but I also, as an option, would propose potentially if there's an ability to discuss and further at an executive session on the 23rd when we meet again, perhaps that's another opportunity for us to address this issue as a board. I don't know schedules, so I recognize.
Can we schedule, I mean, I guess it's if he's available, to have an executive session on the 23rd.
Or was July 4th? Okay.
And I would, yes.
I know for my schedule, I've got depositions set that day pushing up to, I'll be done so that I can be here by 3. I don't know that I can, in a school board case, a different school board case, I don't know that I could be here before that. We could potentially do something afterwards. We try not to do that only because that means we have a court reporter sitting around, or, because you never know exactly when something's going to be over, which is why we try to set the 2 o'clock between the workshop and the regular board meeting time.
We could set an executive session at 4 or upon completion.
Right. I mean, we would do it at the end of the regular meeting. I just don't know when that's going to be, and that's only a matter of inconveniencing and paying for the court reporter to be potentially waiting around. I don't know if that means...
Well, we could ask her to come at 4, and potentially we wait around or potentially
we can
she
do
waits
that.
around. I would respectfully ask Mr. Robinson if he would withdraw his motion if in view of the fact that we have scheduled a executive session to discuss this with the attorney and perhaps to get an answer to your question and see, you know, where this is coming from.
I'm fine.
Not where it's coming from, but the underlying facts of the issue of what you're talking about.
I'm fine.
You're fine leaving it as a motion to vote on?
Yes.
Or pulling it? Okay. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay.
Nay.
The motion loses 3-2. We try. We try not to have 3-2 votes. We try to be accommodating. You know, Ms. Goodwin walked away and did not issue those proclamations and try to bring them forward. Okay, I won't do it. If there was somebody at the board who didn't want it. And we tried to accommodate you by saying, let's have the executive session first. And I'm just surprised that you want to continue to push forward things that are 3-2 votes. I'm
Ms.
just
Brown,
surprised.
the person who I was referring to, the school board employee, was you, Ms. Brown.
Yeah, and
Ms. Brown, you're the one who posted that the school district knew 6 years ago about the DJ case.
I don't know what that means.
I have it right here, Ms.
I didn't know
Brown.
that there was a DJ case
Ms.
until.
Brown, I have your own words right here.
Okay, fine.
It's you, Ms. Brown.
Excuse me, give me that paper, whatever that is, and we'll look at it, see if I posted it, but then we'll talk about it. I said I don't agree with your assessments.
Keep reading.
All right,
Your words, Ms. Brown, not
I'll
mine.
read the post where he says that I said. It says, I don't agree
did
with
not
your
read the post.
assessment of the situation, but I can't comment on specifics of pending lawsuits. The superintendent, and I believe this was probably the previous superintendent, has told the board on the record that we are willing and attempting to provide services for DJ. And I said, why not ask Karen Rose with her ESE expertise and the head of middle schools why she didn't correct the situation before we went to high school? This was a heated discussion that was going back and forth. And I have told Ms. Bennett I do not want to get in discussions with her because no matter what I say, it gets worse. And there has been emails, and it's a very difficult situation. So you're right, we should not mention this but I don't see where I said that we had a school board employee that was lying.
When
I
was
didn't
Karen
say
Rose
it.
the executive director of middle school? When did DJ go to middle school? 6 years ago. But I didn't want to bring...
Point of order or what? Can I say,
I didn't want to get
I'm
into the
begging you,
details.
please. This is, I
yeah.
absolutely understand where you come from, and I support it because I didn't support the appeal from the first. I am disgusted about certain behavior that I see because this is so important. There is an actual human being attached to this. So I would just ask the elected members of this board, take it seriously and behave yourself, particularly in a public forum.
I agree. And so we will move forward. We will discuss this at our next executive session, and we will make a discussion back at the executive session with the facts we have at hand. Oh, yes, the meeting is adjourned, but campaigns go on.